Call the public hearing to order in regards to the annexations of block 07, lot 17, 19, 21, and 22 to be annexed into the town with a general commercial zoning. And anyone who would like to address Irmo Town Council on this, all we ask is you come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. So anyone who would like to speak.
I guess it's my turn. My name is Les Coon, and my address is 111 Saratoga Road. It's in Valentine. The mailing address, though, is Irmo, South Carolina. I'm president of the Valentine Civic Association, and largely the Valentine people and the Civic Association, we would like to keep a voice in what happens, within our small and shrinking area, we might as well say in this case too. And the Civic Association is not an organization that has ever been opposed to change, or as long as it was for the betterment of the communication, of the community. Continuously for over 35 years now, it's been working with Richland County to bring positive changes and improvements to the Valentine area. Essentially, like our charter as a civic association has been to bring the community together to affect positive change and voice our concerns, though, against projects that may have a negative impact on our area. The annexation petition that you're considering right now is for the properties on the north side of Bickley Road, and from what I've learned about it so far, it's not that these property owners are all of a sudden just dying to get into, the town of Irmo. Not that they're not a good place, but largely it's been that people are talking to them and trying to convince them that they would sell the properties, or combine their properties, kind of that concept. They could get higher values for it along the lines of selling it as a business or having a developer move in there. And of course, our concern is that if it was to become annexed by Irmo, it's a way out in left field kind of thing for you. We have to live with what's there, but you may not always give it full consideration as to what type of business may go in there, and that's our major concern. So we're asking formally as the Valentine Civic Association that you would reject this particular properties and stick with an agreement essentially that we've had. This is not anything in writing or whatever, but we've had a pretty good agreement for a long period of time that you just say on the south side of Bickley Road, just kind of draw it right there and expand Irmo in different directions. Any questions for me?
Are you also working on becoming a township? Are you also doing it?
We're just thinking about that right now. We're probably in 08 where we had expressed interest in becoming an incorporated town. We had, a lot of meetings with, Irmo, et cetera. At that time, it did fail, and we haven't, gone to, resurrect that. So that's why we're here asking you to, be kind to us and not go for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address Irmo Town Council on the annexation right now? Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Do you think you would be better off with the county in control of what goes in there and zoning than with Irmo having a say of what went in there with zoning?
Well, that's absolutely it, because let's pick anything. So say for some reason you chose to put a concrete plant there, or a truck terminal, or a bus terminal. We would have no input whatsoever as to what's going on there. That's why we're just trying to ask it. It's like, we know where you are. If you would just remain there. And just to back up only to last year, a parcel of land there which is already zoned commercial was people wanted to develop as low-income apartments. and there was a little confusion in that some individuals or whatever may have contacted, members of council and in a panic about asking Irmo to make annex that. I did make it quite clear in contact with some council members, and it's like, no, we know that we have a very, very huge potential problem here, but bringing the community together with the people in Milford Park and Adderley Oaks and the Civic Association, there was 450 or something letters that went to, oppose this and not to get those tax incentives to do it. And we just literally were willing to take our chances of, battling not having this low-income apartment complex, as opposed to the other choice would be to seek assistance from Irmo, and we turned that down and we took our chances and we didn't win. And yes, we would want to stay with Richland County and take our chances there. And we work closely with Bill Malinowski and Nathan Valentine and different people to keep a good rapport with them about good, positive expansion. We're not trying to hurt the landowners by any means. And if they had something to talk about, we're happy to talk with them about it. We've been very successful at keeping a good attitude about things. But we would like Irmo to not bring it into their fold.
So, so you're saying that you guys were successful? They are building an apartment complex back there. Is that not low income?
Not in this area you have this petition on them. There are apartments out on 176.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where?
And again, 176, we're designing to the fact that that's considered a business growth area, so town of Irmo wants to run out 176 and things like that. We're opposed to that. We're just trying to say from, where you come over the hump where the railroad track bridge is, just stop where you are there, stop on Nickley Road to the south side of it, run in all kinds of other directions you may seem fit, but we just feel that we'd like to keep our community as it is there in Richland County. And it just doesn't seem that this property should be that important to the town of Irmo, or by any means something that makes or breaks you, but it's important to us. So we ask your cooperation here.
Okay.
Anyone else who would like to speak on this issue?
Hello, my name is Sue Kettering. I live at 1908 Marina Road. Property purchased by my father in 1951. And when he married us in 55, I got the greatest joys of my life up here. Quiet, no traffic to speak of, and there was only one other house there, and it was there before the lake was built. All right, so Valentine began a long time ago before Irmo began. So what? So here's what I'm trying to say to you. Number one, in overhearing your meeting, it seems you're running low on cash. And I'm here to ask you a question about that. Is that why you want the tax money for a big building across from an elementary school? Is that the case? Or do you want to just single-handedly take on the accidents that may happen with semi-trailer trucks and other large trucks, from mothers who are late bringing their children to school or getting them out of school to get them home? Do you want to single-handedly pay for all of that? In my mind, it would be a misadventure for you. Now, I'm speaking from my heart. Number one, 76 to London. You can't get down the road at just about any time of day. My home is 1.4 miles down Marina Road to 76. It's less than 4 more miles to the interstate. It used to be something like a 5.5 minute drive, 15 to 20 minutes, just about any time of day. Because you can't widen the road. The roads aren't being kept up by Richland County. And I mean, it's a patch and a patch and a patch and a patch, but they're not doing anything to make the roads more substantial for the amount of traffic that has influxed our community. Yes, we know everybody wants to live up here, but Valentine is a very peaceful community. We've always been laid back, not lazy, laid back, and very concerned about others, and to keep the county, or maybe keep Valentine out of being charged in accidents. And you know, Lake Murray out because SCNG would be charged with that if there was an accident, and have to bear with it. But the point of the fact is that we cannot sustain the traffic we've got right now. The Marina Road is full of patches from the start to the end. The people that drive down Marina Road that don't live there are doing 50, 60 miles an hour in the 40-mile-an-hour zone, which goes to 35, which goes to 25 right before my house. And bumpity, bumpity, bump. I had the misfortune of having an accident and having to ride in an ambulance back home from the hospital. And he was bouncing me off of the stretcher because of all the bumps in the road, to which I objected. But I just think, and I believe I know, that the easiest way for you to make money is to sell property and incorporate it, and you get part of it. I would hope that you would change some way of doing something, say the gasoline tax, take part of that. Make sure you can get in there, get a wedge into something like that, because what are they charging? The state gets, what, 68 or 70 cents per gallon? Well, why can't we have some of that to build up our roads, to build up the surrounding areas to support all the traffic? You can't. Now you've got Bickley Road that comes right out into an intersection that people fly by and don't ever look. They just, they're through there. They slow down if they live on Marina Road, of course, but otherwise it is just bounding on down. And Bickley Road, my experience has been that it is not a fast lane. It is a slower lane. And one of my cousins has contract construction, and those roads are not broken up. And he's on the other end of Bickley Road. But I would ask that you preserve the lives of our children and the teachers and everyone who works at Valentine Elementary School, instead of trying to make money on incorporating a very large business. To take our town away, to take the money we get from Richland County away. It is very bizarre and bald-faced, not to mention irrational, to not want to take care of children. You were talking about your parks. I'm talking about a school. Valentine Elementary School. That road needs to be safe. And yes, our parks are there too, on the same road. But everybody that lives here, if you go towards the lake, you know what I'm telling you is true. You can't get through there for the lake. If you do, you're lucky any time of day. So turning Bickley Road to where there's a sharp right coming off of 76 going towards Marina Road, and a left, of course, getting across the road to get on Bickley Road. I don't understand how you can take the attitude that no accidents are going to happen, because they wouldn't. Whoever's incorporated over here to bring you more money, and then you take our money from Richland County for Valentine, you've got to believe that you're doing the wrong thing. You can make money other ways. From listening to your business meeting, I've heard many ways for you to make money. quickly. And I don't understand why it's a one set mind. You gotta have Valentine, specifically across from an elementary school. That's not going to be the best idea we ever come up with. And it will hurt our traffic, our children, mamas and daddies who are running late. I'm only aware of this because my home in West Columbia is across from DC number 1. And I know how parents fly in because I'm right there at the driveway. And this is not your best idea to get the quickest amount of money you can get. You can do so much more with your politics than by taking our town and turning it into yours. Sure, we haven't done much, and when last tried, it was 2008 when the Republican Party and President crashed our economy. So no wonder that didn't pass by. Nobody had any money. Nobody knew what was going to happen, except that it was going to get worse, and it did. And we're getting better now. So if you think about it, I know some of you have to be lawyers, so you can figure out a good way to make money. I know a good real estate lawyer, in fact, the best, but I'm not a litigious person. I am simply appealing to your humanity and your consciousness to avoid heavy traffic at an elementary school and to leave our money from Richland County alone. Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that microphone hooked up?
You couldn't hear me? I have a loud voice.
I could hear you.
I could hear you.
We could hear you. It wasn't
It
coming
wouldn't come
through.
out clear.
It's not making any noise here.
That's fine.
It is broken.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
just not plugged in?
Ma'am, it's broken. It's broken.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm surprised they asked me, was it working? That's all.
Oh, no, they asked this gentleman here. I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Anyone else who would like to address council on the annexation?
I think I need to clear up a couple points,
Yeah.
very seriously. Number one, the town of Irmo would not be looking at that area to grab land for income or money. We would receive $0. Okay? The millage that I spoke of at our budget workshop applies to businesses too. So we wouldn't be taking any money from your area. I think that some may not know how hard this town worked to squelch the low-income apartments that were going on some of this land right around there to stop that. And I would submit that we had probably a much louder voice politically than the Valentine folks had to do that. So it's not our position to take anything. We are not aggressive in going out and looking to annex. We only respond when someone comes to us. So if there's a beef with the town of Irmo, it should be with those property owners that are coming to us asking to come to the town.
Are they here?
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
She has some very good points. I'm Pam Mitchell, and I'm here to represent one of the property owners. I work for Douglas and Cannon Real Estate in Chapin. And yes, I was listening to what was said, and I just respectfully disagree because, as you said, Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
one of the property owners, Mr. Bickley, approached me about helping him to assist him in selling his property over a year ago. Okay. And he has made a couple of different attempts to annex into the town since that time. It was his idea. He felt like it would benefit him, it would help him in his endeavor to sell this property. Currently, it's zoned as agricultural. He's had it for many, many years. and, he's ready to sell it. And as a property owner, he has the right to do that. And no, I don't think any real estate agents have approached them and told them if they can do this, they can get, the big bucks for their property. We're just trying to assist him in doing what he would like to do, which is sell property that he owns, that he has a right to sell. Nothing has been decided. I would say that if we come into the town of Irmo, you folks have done a good job of running the town of Irmo. I understand that you don't tax your individuals, that you run this town off of business licenses, if I'm correct. And that's very admirable. Eventually, maybe there will be some businesses on these properties. I don't see, we have no idea what will be there. I think we're imagining the worst, that there's going to be bus stations and all these things. I think that you all, in your planning stages, if you bring this into the town, will use your wisdom and good knowledge to what you allow to come into that area. So I just respectfully speak up on behalf of Mr. Bigley and his sister and other property owners there that would like to come into the town. They see a benefit of being a part of this town. Across the street is already an next part of the town, and there's nothing but good that could come for them. So I didn't come planning to speak. I don't have a lot of rebuttals, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Hey, Mom.
And may I introduce the reason why I'm here? Grandchildren. I'm a third generation property owner of Lake Murray. I actually do live off of Sandy Drive, which is off Johnson Maria Road, so this doesn't adversely affect my property. However,
Give us your name and address for the record so she can...
Erin, E-R-I-N, Kaywood, C-A-W-O-O-D. And it's 115 Sandy Drive. Now, my grandfather purchased 7 acres for $9 an acre back in 1962. It's not 7 acres anymore. But I look forward to passing down the traditions that we have as residents of Ballantyne, how we've grown up. Our community, we have strived to incorporate Ballantyne. That was turned down, I think it was 5 years ago, when Mr. Shealy was the head of it all. I like to protect our traditions and just keep Ballantyne part of Ballantyne. You have Chapin, you have Irmo, and we like to visit, we really do. We do love your parks, but we also love our small hometown community where a lot of residents that have been there for generations, you can always say, hey, I know the Shealys, or hey, how are the Mets doing? And, we like to keep it small, and we would just appreciate if y'all do reject this. We do want to keep it as rural as possible and to just preserve things for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone else?
Anybody else talk in favor of this thing? Because I don't, they keep referring to Ballantyne as a township, and I don't think that's quite the case. And I understand they want to keep their community as I guess as inclusive or as congenial as they want to be, but I mean, we're being approached by a property owner to annex into the town for whatever reason they want to annex into the town. Can't they do what they want to do if it's in Richland County?
No, I can't.
They can't do what they want to do if it's in Richland County?
And some of this too, we can discuss when we get to that as far as... But,
Yeah,
that's part of it.
then, but I was just curious. I wish somebody would speak on behalf of the town, the owner, just tell me what they're planning to do. It's so unique.
The real estate agent did.
Yeah, but she says she's representing one of the owners. I mean, is there any other owners here?
Well, I think when we get to it, I'll answer some of that too, because I have been informed about some, and I think Paul may too, so we can kind of go over that as well. Anyone else would like to address us up? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and then we'll call the regular meeting to order.
I wanted to speak on a different matter. Are you done with that matter?
Well, we're going to have another point. Yeah, this is just for the public hearing on the annexation.
Okay.
And then we'll get down here and we'll have a couple other spots for presentations. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation, and Kathy has asked to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Or do you want to do both, or just the invocation?
That's fine.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like everyone tonight to remember in your prayers all of those who face cancer, who deal with the treatment, and who survive. There are two ladies in our community, very important to our community. Miss Sarah Watson, who is recovering from surgery, and Jeanette Calder, who will undergo surgery tomorrow. So please remember these ladies in your prayers. Dear Lord, thank you for the right to say this prayer, which was affirmed by our Supreme Court yesterday. Thank you for your mercy and grace, all the many blessings you have given us, the wisdom to hammer out a budget, to take care of our new park and all of our citizens, our police force, all the services we offer. Thank you for a wonderful environment, a good community. We give you thanks in the intercession of your Son. Amen.
Amen. Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes from April 15, 2014. Is there a motion for approval as written?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor then of the minutes being approved as written, do so with show of hand. Next item is the administrative briefing. Ms. Brown, anything you need to add?
Yes, with just one thing. Ms. Stanley left you guys, I think she put up here on the counter for all the council members, the Municipal Association's annual meeting information. You need to let her know if you plan on going. That's July 5th to July 12th in Charleston. She needs that information in the next week. We have some time to...
They'll have a drawing for us,
Okay.
for me to register everybody online.
That's all I have.
Any questions of Mr. Brown on anything on the administrative briefing?
Yeah, on the administrative briefing, on the item B you sent to us, you put down on here that I expressed a desire to remove the buffer area and construct additional parking for the community park. That's not what I asked for. I asked for approval of getting an engineering study done to increase the, just look at the parking in the park. Yeah, I didn't say anything about taking down the buffer, and you got down here removing trees and putting gravel down, and how that's going to cause water runoff, and you have to get a DHEC approval. I mean, when did you go to engineering school to get a...
That's what you told me on the phone. Let's not try to deny it now. You said you want...
No, I'm saying, where'd you get the DHEC requirement for, and you have DHEC requirement for that stuff?
I called Dennis Corporation, who's an engineering firm that we currently use, to find out what the implications would be if we went to the high ground, because all the water would be coming down to the park. If we went up around that buffer area to put more parking in.
But I didn't ask you that. I asked you to just ask for a study to be done.
Well, and that
I
was the
asked for
information they gave.
engineering decision whether to go to DHEC and get approval for it. I mean, we just put a crush and rundown on their existing park. Do we have to get a DHEC approval for that?
That was already on the low side. That was downhill.
So we didn't have to get DHEC approval for that, or we have to increase our retention pond for that?
We have to for the buffer area because it's more.
Do we have to increase the retention pond for the one we just built?
It's less than 1 acre.
Okay, so
DHEC
you don't have to do it, right?
DHEC requirement for anything that's more than an acre, yes, you do have to get permit from DHEC.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. That's why I
That's where
asked for an
it's forwarded
engineering
to.
study to see where we can do it at.
That's why we have it on there, because, you know, the $9,000 for their study is, got to be approved by
It's not
council.
$9,000. That says $2,000 or so for that study to be done. I just want an architect or engineer to do, give us an idea of what we can do with existing land. I'd asked you for an engineering study that would cost $10,000, and I asked you to go to DHEC and get approval or anything. So my point is this, is just I didn't ask for all of that, other stuff we put in this administrative briefing. All I
Well,
asked you to
it's-
do is to just get approval for engineering study or an architectural study done to see where we can increase our parking on our existing land. That's all I asked you.
And my job is to inform council what you want to do so that I can fill them in. I had council ask me, what is this all about?
Well, if they need to know, they could have called me and asked me. I need you to send out information saying that we want to cut down trees and
Well,
add a 100-foot buffer.
And let me
like that.
remind
Okay.
that Bob works for all of council, and any council can ask him to do anything, just like you asked him to do something. Somebody else can ask him to do whatever, and he has to work
So
for
what does that
everyone.
got to do with me asking him why did he put that in there?
Well, I think he has the prerogative to put that in there, and and I'll say this, if somebody wants to put something in writing and send it to Bob, then it should be that way. If they asked him to write it down, I mean, I asked him to put something down, and it's not exactly what I wanted, but hey, I didn't put it in writing either, I just said, hey, do this. But I think he's done what he should do. I mean, he has a responsibility also to work with other council and, you know, if they ask what's this going to cost or what's this or whatever it may be, then he has the right to respond and should be ready, because they're going to ask him at the meeting. He ought to be prepared when he gets here of whatever it is they may have.
It's fine, but I didn't ask him to do an engineering study. I asked him to get a
He
DHEC
works
approval.
for 5 people, not one, so he has to kind of respond to those too. If somebody asks him something else, or if he thinks they're going to, then he needs to be able to be prepared.
Okay.
Any other questions of Mr. Brown? None. Next item is a receipt of communication, and do we have any receipt of communication?
Yeah, this DHEC letter, South Carolina Department of Transportation letter we got about this drainage problem in Friars Gate. Long and short of it, basically, when I read it, it says that basically it's our responsibility or local county government responsibility to fix it. There's other drainage issues in Friars Gate, not only this one, but there's other ones in Friars Gate. Is that typically telling us that we need to just work on this ourselves? Or do we continue to try to get,
Well,
I'll ask Jake. Yeah, I'm sure you're aware of the letter.
because Jake wrote a letter asking
did you see
DOT
it?
to...
I've got that.
They responded, and I think basically what they said was, it's not DOT's responsibility, it's
No,
either the towns or the counties or the
Exactly.
property owners or somebody other than them.
Well, it was that
I didn't see him say property owner, they said it was town.
Well, I think somewhere in there it said the property owner may have to fix something.
here's what they basically said is that when the subdivision was originally built, the drainage was designed to handle the water as it existed at the time, and it did. And they're saying there's a lot more development that's going on, there's a lot more water. And we are not certain that this is our responsibility. They didn't say what. They said it may be the responsibility of the county. And they have indicated a willingness to talk with us. Now, I met with David Charneski in my office for about an hour last week. And we are going to try and set up a meeting as DOT suggested with the engineer from DOT and the folks from the county. I've asked David to get with Bob, try to coordinate that meeting. Has he called you yet, Bob?
No, sir.
Do me a favor. This gentleman from DOT, the engineer's name they gave us, Thad, has been promoted, and there's now a new DOT engineer.
Brian Jones.
Yeah, and I know Ryan. I knew Thad too. Thad was great. We need to try one time to have a meeting with Ryan and the Dennis engineering folks and the county folks. I have mentioned this problem to a very good friend of ours. I don't know how many of y'all know John Hardy. John Hardy is probably the greatest highway commissioner ever to live. If you go by the airport, it's the John Hardy Expressway. Well, in February, one of the few decent things that Nikki Haley has done is to basically name John Hardy as the new highway commissioner. John was the highway commissioner for years and years, and then he had to leave because he'd served, but now he's got a new term. And I have discussed this with John, John is very much of a can-do type of person, and he's also a red tape type, cutting type person. In my humble opinion, considering the fact that I ride by there every time we have a torrential rainfall to see what actually is happening, this is a highway department problem. The problem you have is the box they have to collect water isn't big enough. And when it rains too hard, the water diverts through his living room. I've told David that just as part of my services and my friendship to him, that I'll do whatever I have to free of charge to help bring this matter to a head. I've got to file a lawsuit in Frisco County and DOT, I'll do it. I don't want to, though. I don't think I'll have to. John Hardy expressed a willingness to try to help us with this. And if we can just get this meeting set up, I'll make certain that before the meeting is set up, John is apprised that we're having the meeting, and he may even come and attend with us to see what's going on. This problem is affecting, let's say, with 10 homeowners in Old Friars Gate, and it needs to get fixed. The truth of the matter is, even though it's not our responsibility, push comes to shove, and we ultimately see that we can't get it fixed with the people who should fix it. One of the things that I would urge upon you is to do whatever you have to do to help David and to his neighbors. We've got one house down there that's abandoned with floors rotting out because of the water that has gotten underneath the house and basically rotted the floors out. It's the house directly next door to David's. If you look at David's garage, where he had the chicken coops that decided not to put chickens in, bless his heart, after we talked about it. The first 5 or 6 boards on that garage are actually rotted off due to the water. It gets that high, and there's no excuse for that. I think that this is one of those things that we have to find an answer to, regardless what it takes within reason. But I am hopeful that we will be able to meet with DOT in Richmond County and to find a fix for it. That letter is not as bad as it sounds. I didn't like it either. When I first read it, and I read it the second time, they didn't say nothing. And we can be persuasive from time to time. We're going to ask nicely first. If we can get this meeting set up, and I know that Bob and Whit have both been out there once before, but I'd like to be a part of that meeting myself. And I think we might be able to bring this fixed. But I hope I answered your question. Probably way more than you wanted me to. But I spent an hour with David, and I've also spent time with talking to some folks at DOT about this. We are going to either get there or let you know that we won't, but this is not over the top yet.
I'll try to get it set up for next week. Any council members want to go to that meeting? 2 of you can go if you want.
I want to, depending on what time it is and all that good stuff.
I'd love to have I'd love to have 2 of you there if you could. Anybody who will come. The more the merrier.
Any other city communication? None. Then the next item is presentation by citizens, and this is for items on the agenda. So anyone who would like to address Irmo Town Council on anything that's on the agenda here, other than the annexation, since that's already been addressed, do so now. We just ask that you give us your name and address for the record. So anyone who wants to address council.
Good evening. My name is Akeem Watson, 530 Doncaster Drive. I'm here to talk about the park. When we saw the agenda that came out and the proposal to add additional parking around the perimeter of the park, the first thing that came to my mind is the only perimeter that's left is the buffer. And those of us who live adjacent to the park, like I do, and many others in the area, came together at the time we were planning the park and expressed our interest in having a 100-foot buffer. That was one of the things that was kind of spurred by the initial media flyer that was put out to us from members of the council, I believe, regarding a 100-foot buffer. And that's something that we would like to see maintained. I'm not against the park. I really enjoy the park. My kids enjoy the park. I've been here to tell council about that before. I think it's a great idea. I enjoy the natural beauty of the park and the trees in the park. And that's something that we don't want to see eliminated. I know that I believe it's the Arbor Day Committee has put up a bird sanctuary on one end there, and it would be nice to keep those things intact. And when it comes to a big event like the Orchestra, I personally don't think there's enough space in the park to have parking spaces for everyone who would attend. It's not state fairgrounds. And the state fairgrounds, in my opinion, isn't a beautiful space like our park is. Maybe on fair day or fair week, but other than that, it's just flat gravel. I don't want to see that happen to our park. It's a little bit upsetting when you see proposals that could potentially go against what we've worked hard to maintain in this community. And I just want to caution the council against going against that buffer that we've already established. We have a natural park, it's peaceful, it's tranquil. I'm not sure of any park that can facilitate that much traffic for a one-day event. And I think it would be a shame to disregard the wishes of the residents who live there and who utilize the park every day for a one-day event or a couple of days out of the year. I think that would be doing the community a disservice. So I just wanted to let everyone know about that. And I don't think it's council's intention to disregard us. I think we can work together very well for issues like this. So just please honor the residents' wishes and keep the park a beautiful natural space that it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone else?
I'm Mike Robinson, 506 Doncaster. I'm Mr. Watson's neighbor. He summed up my feelings on it, on the park and the buffer, fairly succinctly, although I would argue that the park is not a natural space, it's a planned space. And you can plan a bird sanctuary, but that doesn't mean that the wildlife and the birds are going to come to it just because we put some signs there. As a matter of fact, I know at least 3 owl nests behind my property and on my property where there are a family of barred owls that I personally, I'm not a falconer. I don't talk to them. They don't land on my forearm. I'm a pure amateur, but I do enjoy talking to them each evening. and they will whistle back to me. And during the long months of the construction of our park, the owls all would disappear. Upon its completion, they did not flock to the bird sanctuary, although I wouldn't have a problem with moving that behind my house where they are. I don't put any squirrels back there because I love these owls because they control my rampant squirrel population. I have pictures, I have videos of the nest I'd be happy to share with you. I do not want to see cars backed up. I'm here with Mr. Watson. There's not enough space there. Single stream cars along that thing and have accidents, bump ups right there in my backyard. I was against the park initially because of the noise, and it was ongoing. About that, I was correct. It was ongoing and it was obnoxious. But the sound of the children playing on the park, I don't have any quarrel with that. I don't know anybody who would. But at that time, when we were planning this, we were promised a 100-foot buffer. Prior to that, at the previous meeting, I was about it, but I believe Mr. Watson was. There was talk of a buffer, and then there was a point where they had withdrawn that because some litigious reason, because the buffer was not promised in writing. That statement is, the way I understand it, that statement has come up again in regards to this parking lot. Oh, nothing was done to us in writing. I'm trying to keep politics out of this and address you folks as people. There's no good point in denigrating proceedings by involving politics in them. But at least two of you stood right in front of my face and promised me there was going to be a buffer. And I know how these things go. It's like once government sets its sights on something, they never let up. They're relentless. They come back, they come back, they come back. I've been to 3 of these meetings, and each time there's fewer and fewer and fewer people. And finally, the machine wears down the people, and they finally get what they want and drag their goals across the finish line. I don't have a job where I can come up here every month and state my case about my 100-foot buffer. But if somebody who professes in flyers to be one of my neighbors, and they tell me to my face I'm going to get a 100-foot buffer, by God, I expect a 100-foot buffer. I don't expect to have to get it in writing from my neighbor. We were all assured, 14, 15 months ago, there was going to be a buffer. And here we are again. We have some right to privacy from our homes. There was a discussion earlier about the drainage problem and how that it was planned upon what the development was at that point. We purchased this house. I purchased my house from that man. And when I bought it, I was buying it with what I was looking at right then. And there was no park there. And there sure as hell wasn't a bunch of late model Fords backed up to it. I have some right to privacy. It's the town's land. You can do anything you want to it. But it's the property button up to it's my property, and I can do whatever I want to with that. But the right to privacy is not just a convenient excuse to kill a baby.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address council?
My name is Jill Nowak, and I live at 112 Maidstone Court. I have your easiest problem for the day. The property at I think it's 131 Whitewood is a house that's burned down. It burned down about 1.5 years ago. I think recently it was purchased by somebody. I'm not sure about that, but the signs are down and everything. But in the backyard is a pool. The pool fills with water with every storm and everything, and it's just teeming with mosquitoes, millions of them, and dead frogs. It stinks, and it's very much a health concern. Last year, my daughter and I could not spend any time in our backyard because the mosquitoes were so bad. All of us sprayed and did what we could, but it's just horrible. I know that whoever's bought the property, it's going to take time to, fix that. My concern is that pool, that they've covered it so nobody could fall in it, but the frogs and the mosquitoes can still get in. And I've called DHEC and the health department, and just everybody seems to want to say it's somebody else's problem. And I'm just really needing some help with it.
Can I ask you a question? What did DHEC say?
That they couldn't do anything about it, that they didn't do individual residences, that they were more, it was more businesses or anything like that.
Okay. Because I saw the pictures and I've seen the house.
I thought DHEC controlled that sort of stuff.
I did too.
They do.
We corresponded, and she's here tonight because I think I'm the one that sent you the email.
Thank you.
What we need to do is to use our nuisance ordinance. It was so controversial. We need to get our code enforcement officer to go out and to issue the appropriate notice.
He has. He went out there last week.
Yeah, once that's done, then the citation needs to be issued. And once that's done, then it needs to come before council. Y'all need to vote as to whether or not you find it to be a nuisance. If you find it to be a nuisance, instruct me. I will bring a legal action, and I will force them to clean it up, knock it down. If we have to go get the court order, we've done this before. If you recall the house we did, God, what was it called? I forget.
Chapel White.
Yeah, we knocked it down, and the court granted us a lien for the money that we spent knocking it down. All we got to do is go through our processes, and that nuisance ordinance will serve us well. I know there were so many people that said it was a horrible thing, but I think it's pretty good. And by using that nuisance ordinance, we can get your house down. If you will see me after you finish your talk, please.
Well, we've got it on the agenda now.
Good.
Yeah. And I think we're all sympathetic.
Absolutely.
I mean, I really feel like it's a health concern. I mean, there are so many mosquitoes, and with everything, West Nile, all the things that mosquitoes and animals can carry like that, it's just, and I spoke with a lot of the people in the community. I kind of went around to some of the houses this morning and told people that we could come to the meeting today. And a lot of them said it was kind of like what you guys said, that they've been calling different people, and I think everybody's just kind of overwhelmed with it now. It's like there's just no answer, or that it's it's kind of somebody else's problem the whole time.
Well, it's been sold 3 times in the last 3 months, and we finally got a hold of the property manager in California last month, about 3 weeks ago, and they had just sold it last week to some property management firm in Plano, Texas. So it's hard for us to issue a citation if we can't put it in somebody's hand and they won't return our calls.
Sergeant Ringer has mailed a letter to that new company and gave them contact information, and I think it was last Tuesday.
Just last week.
May something. I got a copy of it here, but.
Is there anything we can do, putting some chemicals or just something in the pool
Well,
in the
he's
meantime?
called DHEC too, and they do residential property. I'm not sure, but he's called them. He's waiting on a call, and then they're supposed to come meet him at the property, and either they'll say what they'll do, or they'll tell us what we can do.
We actually have in our ordinance, as I recall, we'll cut the grass and file a lien against the property for that. Can we not?
And he's wrote up a whole bunch of stuff. In fact, he's had a lot of stuff wrote up against him, but the last company was going to tear it down.
Right.
But then they ended up selling it for $351. Missed out on the deal there, I think, but
Well, I guarantee you, there's several operators for $381, we'll knock it down, build them.
I think that's what the new owner, he's hoping.
Exactly. You know, bleach in that pool, if somebody had spilled some bleach in that pool, I think it would,
Well, I did that last year.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I know I'm not telling you to do it, I'm saying if
Well, I mean,
somebody
I
did.
did, all the neighbors, I mean, I think some of the neighbors don't even realize where that's coming from, where the problem's coming from. But I did that last year. It rains, it drains down, it rains again, it just is a continuous thing. I don't know what you could do unless it was filled in or unless somebody continually pumped it out, put chemicals in it. It just keeps coming
Coming
back.
back up, yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address Irmo Town Council on anything that's on the agenda? See none. Next item is unfinished business, item A. This is the second reading of ordinance 1405 to annex the 4 parcels located in Richland County on the north side of Bickley Road, lots 17, 19, 21, and 22. Is there a motion for a second reading?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion? Does anybody want to say anything?
Well, I think,
I'll let John
I
speak.
spoke earlier, this has come to us by the property owner, and I think the property owner has a right to benefit from the property that they own. And it's not something that we went trying to strong arm to annex into the town. It's at the request of the property owner and the property or the property owner's agent. I understand the concerns of the Ballantyne folks, and I have always felt just like they feel about the area. However, I do feel that the council in Irmo and the past history gives everyone, or should give everyone, a better feel for the control of that property than does, quote, Richland County. And our ability to get things done through Richland County falls on deaf ears so many times. So I'm responding to the request of the property owner. My philosophy has always been, if you want to control it, you got to own it.
Paul? Second, so that
You know, we talked about several incidents tonight with people having flooding issues. This problem with the swimming pool. And if the same thing, this area that's in the Ballantyne area, if it comes in Irmo, we will be able to help them with their issues. I don't know, I actually don't know what they do. They have to work with the county, I guess. They have no one to work with them. And just these homeowners, these property owners have asked to come in, they want to come into Irmo. I think we should accept them. They want, our police protection. They want our planning issues. They want a municipality. They want to belong to municipality. Unless Ballantyne is getting ready to form a town, I don't think it's in the near future that I know of. So we need to protect our borders.
You want to say anything? There is a couple things I was going to say. And Bob, you can help me out on some of this. As far as a concrete plant or something like that, they would have to have the industrial, whatever we call that, zoning, like manufacturing or something. So that couldn't go into a, quote, general commercial. So it had to be an industrial, what we call light manufacturing. We write it down for the kid. So that wouldn't be an issue. I can understand too some of the concerns of people in that area about our annexing on that side of the street or anywhere in that area. Further up the road on Dreer Shoals Road. But it's not, I think there was something mentioned about us low on funds. In my mind, we could be low on funds one day down the road, but we're not really right now. I sincerely believe we're not. I would like for us to have more of those funds in our bank, but that's just me personally, but we're not. I don't think this is about making money. We don't make the money off the property selling or anything like that. We do run our town off business license and those kind of fees, which the more businesses in our town, the more revenue into our town for that. But there's also cost involved in that as far as the police and people responding to accidents that could be in that area and patrolling it and everything. But I think what this has to do with more is kind of like what they've said. You know, we have some people who own some property that want to be annexed into our town. And for whatever reason, good or bad, you know, we have to look at, is that good for us? I think one of the situations on this property, there is a construction company on one of them, and then there's a boat dealership on one. And from my understanding, from talking to Loretta, the boat dealership needs to expand. And they want to buy some of that property next door. But they can't afford the whole thing, and they don't need the whole thing. It's a whole lot more than what they need. So that lady who owns it has said she would subdivide her property into 4 tracts and then let the boat people buy the 1 tract. And then she'll put the other 3 tracts on the market and try to sell them. And then the same thing as the other lady said for Mr. Bickley, he wants to sell his property. And part of the problem is, and this is a kind of a personal political statement, but Richland County is not always the easiest to deal with. Their planning commission sometimes is, sometimes isn't, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And I know in some of the areas on this side over here in the northwest, there seems to be a lot of push sometimes to say no to growth. No to this, no to that, no to this, and no to that. And because of that, the people who do own the property, who do want to sell it, either feel like they can't go to Richland County and get the zoning changed, or the process is just difficult. So the easier thing is to say the heck with them and to come into our town because we're next door. And, you know, I don't say that's not our fault, but it's not. To me, the responsibility on Richland County and that area, the representative, is to work with the people up there to allow a certain amount of growth, managed growth, controlled growth, whatever you want to call it. But that area is a good place leading off the interstate into Valentine for commercial development, depending on what type. You know, shopping center with some restaurant boutiques or who knows what type stuff would be good. I would agree. Probably not a concrete plan or some other type of development. And I don't think our zoning would allow that either. But one of the problems is if the people who own the property can't go to that government and get the situation resolved or corrected or fixed, then it's either, well, we can't sell our property. Nobody wants to, I want to say, buy it and build a house on that road because of traffic. So you're looking at either an apartment complex coming in or some other type of thing. You know, in the best of worlds, Richland County would be doing a better job at doing what they do. If they allowed the changes in the zoning that these people wanted, they wouldn't be coming to us. They'd be going to Richland County, getting it, they'd be staying, and they still might, some of them may still want to be here. You know, we have in my opinion, a better police department. Not necessarily better than the county, but better as far as smaller, quicker to respond and all those kind of things that some people would say, hey, you know, I'd rather be in town and get all that. But if the county and that area was allowing some of this growth instead of fighting some of that growth, then I think some of these people would say, hey, I don't need to go to Irmo. We'll just go down to the Richland County Planning and ask for a zoning change and get it. And those properties, to me, are good examples of that. You got two businesses already there. You got a school across the street. You got property down the road that was already zoned commercial because of that apartment complex was going in there, and they wouldn't have to change zoning. They were just going to have to move in. So they've already zoned some of that property over there, but then turn around on this, and for whatever reason, won't. And people are going to find a way to do what they want to do. If they come to us and say, hey, we all annex us, then I think in a way we have a responsibility to look at it and make a decision, yea or nay, whatever we want to do. But I also think, the people up in that area need to get a hold of the representative in that area and say, hey, y'all are forcing this issue. A lot of that annexation that has occurred up there is not because we went and looked for it, it's because they want it out of Richland County's jurisdiction. And to me, that says right there, that's the problem. Until they fix that, people are going to continue to come to us. I, on one side of my mind, said, yes, I like to stay on this side of the road and not cross that road. And I haven't been up there and talked to anybody, and I did a lot of that talking before to a lot of those people to get them to come in from the Walmart back this way. But these people came to us. And I think, one of the people, the land has got a contract on it. They need to get it done. They need to get closed by a certain date, or they got to start back over the contract. I think the owner of the property has a buyer, and they're saying, hey, we just, we got to sell. Trying to go to Richland County has not worked out for them. So in my mind, that leaves us here to do what we should do, which is good for our town, which is to grow. I don't want to, grow at the expense of somebody else, but at the same time, Richland County is a little bit easier to annex because of all these issues. Lexington County is almost the opposite. We can go over and talk to people, beg people to come in, and they have no reason. It's easy to deal with Lexington County. Lexington County doesn't have a business license, and they're happy. But if you go to the other side of the street and talk to people in Richland, they won't come in because they don't want to deal with that government. And so that's kind of where our town is growing on that side because of those issues. I would like to say, too, that I hope we don't have to go any further down the street closer to Valentine. But I do know that the sheriffs and whoever owned that land that the apartment complex was going to be built on, they may turn around at some time and throw their hands up, too, and say, hey, forget Richland County, let's go into Irmo. And we'd have to honestly look at that and make a decision as to, is that good or not? And I know I've talked to Les and some other people about it, but I still feel like what we need to do, or what I need to do, is look at what is here, which is people asking us to annex in. And I think it's a good thing for our town. I think it's a good thing for them. It's kind of like going to the prom. If somebody comes and asks you to take them to the prom, and everybody else is saying no, you're kind of like, okay, we've been asked, and for us to turn it down and say no. If it was some of the property owners that were asking us not to annex them and we were trying to, I would oblige by that as well. But these are the property owners asking us to. I think 3 out of the 4 have signed it. And, I'm not sure about the 4th one. I know there's some questions that he has about coming in, and he may end up coming in anyway. He may sign before we get to the 3rd reading. Which to me would be, okay, 100% of them now want to come in, then you definitely, I think, need to consider that.
One thing, I said this the last meeting, and I'll just reiterate. I've only made 2 promises in 11 years, and this was the 2nd one. When we took Walmart, I told people in Valentine we would go no further. So I'm against this for that reason, but I understand what each of you are saying, and you're probably right, but I have to keep my word. So.
Understand. You want to come in?
I keep hearing you know, Ballantyne has got a great township, and you guys have a great area, and Les, you've done a fantastic job of organizing your neighbors and stuff and coming to our meetings and telling us your point of view. I've asked this question before. Why does the property owner want to come to Irmo and annex in? Why can't they get done what they need to get done through Richland County? And I've heard nobody respond to that from a property owner's perspective. I've asked the property owner, you know, what do y'all want to build? Is it because of the zoning? Is it because of the dealing with 5 people as opposed to dealing with 8 people? Or was it 9 people on their council in Richland County? I don't know. Les seems to be more comfortable dealing with Richland County. He says he trusts them, and I don't know why. I mean, but you seem to be more comfortable and think that you can get, you know, the things that your community needs done through Richland County a lot easier than you can dealing with 5 of us. And it may be so, I don't know. I don't have a dog in this fight one way or the other. I want to do whatever my council wants to do, and I'll support my council in whatever the decision is. But again, if there is some opposition, you know, the opposition is that they don't want to see growth in their community. They don't want to see us annex that land, and quite frankly, do we need to have it? I don't know. I mean, can the owners get done what they want to get done through Richland County, and why do they need to come to Irmo? Is there something they want to build that they can only get done through Irmo? I don't know. I've not heard that answer to that question, but you know, whatever the council decides is, you know, I'll go along with it. I mean, I don't have a problem one way or the other.
And as far as I know, and I don't know 100%, but as far as I know, they're just putting the property on the sale, or on the market for sale, and nobody knows who's going to buy any of it, other than the one section of that one tract that the boat place right next door does want.
So my point is this: why can't they get it done through Richland County then? I mean, Richland County won't let commercial boat places in Richland County?
Well, and I don't know. And I don't know that.
How many times have we been to Richland County to get something?
How many times? I mean, how many letters have we got from Richland County on this one property that keeps telling us they ain't fixing nothing? I mean, my neighborhood has got white squiggly marks all over the roads where they marked them, I want to say in 2008 or 9, where they were going to come out and dig it up and patch it, and they ain't done nothing.
Les seems to be comfortable with Richland County's actions. I mean, if he's comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with Les. I mean,
Well, they can vote in Richland County. They can't vote in Irmo, and I think that's what he's saying. I understand that.
And I think
you have a point. You're all right if we come and work with you. If that was your property and we had say, that'd be one story. But that's the whole huge change here. And it's also extremely short notice. Even if you would defer something like this and give us a chance to even contact the homeowners or the property owners and find out what's their beef. You know, because we were seen as a collective effort by a developer to maybe make promises to these people that seemed grandiose that they could come to Irmo because they would have more influence here. Thank you for letting me speak at all.
well, this is the second reading, so you got one more reading then. It has to go through before it can become a done deal, so.
And I think
It's 2 weeks, right?
You know, a lot of the properties that we annexed on Broad River Road, a lot of the real estate people that were involved in the sale of the land or whatever encouraged their owners of the property to bring it into Irmo because they had dealt with Richland County multiple times, and I think the same thing for Walmart. They had built one and they didn't want to do that again. And I don't blame them to a certain degree, and I don't think it's so much that way in all over the county either. I mean, if you go to other parts of the county, you'll see stuff being built.
Well, then they need to tell me that. They need to say that. They need to call me up and say, Councilman Walker, this is what we want to do on this property. That's why we need to come into town Irmo if they want to get my support. I mean, I don't know. They're asking me to say, okay, yeah, go along with it.
I don't think we'll ever know.
I mean, I don't know. There's no real legitimate reason why we should annex, go any further into Ballantyne. You know, there is no really legitimate reason. I mean, we're already stretched out enough. How long does it take police to get out there, chief?
To the Walmart?
Yeah.
Depends on what the call is and where we're starting from. We usually have our officers spread out of town. Most emergency calls are a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So any more discussion, any more comment, anything? All in favor then of second reading to annex the 4 parcels, block 2500 lots, well, I guess it's TMS 02500, block 7, lot 17, 19, 21, and 22. Do so with show of hands. And all opposed. And we will have third reading on May 20th. Is that the next meeting? Next item is second reading of ordinance 1406 to amend the Irmo business license ordinance, chapter 10, section 1034, to amend the in-town business due date from the 15th to the 1st of January. Is there a motion for second reading?
So moved.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We kind of discussed this last time, and mainly what we're doing is, say if somebody wants to come in and paint a house in town and come get or they don't come get a permit, actually, they just come in and start painting the house, and we catch them on January the 5th or 6th or 7th or whatever it may be. Right now, they could turn around and say, well, I don't have to get that permit until April 15th, so I'm not going to get it. And they could finish painting the house and leave and never get the permit. Actually, they could come back in the house and paint another one the following week. So this kind of just eliminates that and requires them, since they're an out-of-town business working in town, that they got to get the permit either the first day they come in town or they're planning on working in town the first day of January. But they're required to have it from the first day of January throughout that whole year.
Question, so the first day?
The first day they come into town to work.
Okay.
Yeah. But if they know, like if they're do business in town, like cutting grass or something like that, then they know every January 1st they got to get a new business license instead of waiting until April 15th or whatever.
So we have numerous businesses that do a lot of work in town, but they're not in-town businesses. So they come in here in January and February and they're working. But in the past, because the way the ordinance was written, they say, well, I've done a lot of work and I've had licenses for the last 10 years in Irmo. I don't need to get my license till April 15th. But that's not true because they're an out-of-town business. They need to get it as soon as they come into town to work.
So
And it's
technically,
good for the whole year. I mean, it's good until December.
technically they can't really come January 1st. They need to start.
Well, the way this is written is to allow them, as soon as they come to work in town after January 1st, the license is good from January 1st to December 31st.
That makes
So
sense.
it expires that day.
Right.
And technically, every business is supposed to have theirs January 1st. The ones that have a building in town are actually just kind of, they have a grace period to wait until April 15th. It's kind of the same thing as their taxes. Their taxes are actually due January 1st. We just give them 4 months to not pay them or wait on paying them. Any more discussion on that?
Yeah, this is, this license rate is based on the amount of gross revenue that this business will have in the township, or is it the gross revenue the business has, period?
In town.
Just in town.
So, okay, let's take that example that you mentioned about a guy painting a house. Let's say he's painting a house, he charges $1,000, and he doesn't paint another house in Irmo until next year. He paints everywhere else in Columbia and Chapin, wherever, but he paints one house in Irmo. So he's going to pay business license based on $1,000
From one
for the
house
town of Irmo.
for that whole year.
And but if he paints another house in Irmo and he makes $2,000 in the same calendar year, he has to pay a license on $2,000, right?
No, he would have to
Report that as income.
claim it the next year,
Right. And so he's paying business license the next year on $2,000
or $3,000.
because he's made that much revenue in the town's limits of Irmo.
But it's an estimate that they do each year.
That's the way all towns do it.
Well, see, that's why I don't think so, because that means I need to get a business license and to do business in the town of Irmo.
You should have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, give one.
I mean, really, I mean, it's...
And you're
if I
late.
do
You're
any
late
catering,
too.
if I do any catering, if I sell any peach cobblers in the Irmo town limits, I need to have a business license for the peach cobblers I sell at home.
That's cool.
If you're selling them, now, if you like to have a restaurant or somebody selling them for you, then they would.
No, they sell it for
yeah.
me, but I'm saying if I personally wanted to, I got my own manufacturing plant and I want to distribute it myself, I need a business license in the town of Irmo for the peach cobblers I sell in the town of Irmo.
Yes, sir. You been sliding by?
But I could get away with it just for January 1st. No, I'm kidding. That's it. Okay, so, okay.
Susan's going to apply for the license, I can tell.
It's her company, I just work it.
Nothing's going to really change. This is just
No, I
administrative. It makes it easier for the police officers when they track someone down doing work in town.
Okay.
So all in favor then of second reading of this change, do so with show of hands. And next item is new business, approval of mutual aid agreement with the town of Pine Ridge Police Department and the town of Irmo Police Department. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just boilerplate, isn't it, Chief? Same thing we do every year.
They had a change in police chief.
We don't change it unless they change it.
That's right.
Right, we got to do police chief, so.
Yeah, I guess so.
So this is going to effect, it's going to stay in effect until they get a new
change in
chief.
administration, change in police chief.
I help you, you help me.
Absolutely.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of the mutual aid agreement, do so with show of hands. And next item is the approval for engineering study to extend the parking around the perimeter of the community park. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
I would. Do you want to start or you want me?
Yeah, well, I wanted to explain, well, it don't matter. I think we're...
Okay, I think maybe there was some knee-jerk reaction
Yeah.
to this, in that there is a limited amount of space that we have to explain something on an agenda that goes out to the multitudes. But when we're looking at the perimeter of the community park, I know those folks that are very sensitive, all they're seeing is that 100-foot buffer. Well, there's a lot of other area around this park that we need to be looking at for additional parking for the park. Just to make things painfully clear, the orchestra is 41 years old this year. It has never, ever had on-site parking for the festival. Never has. Can't imagine it ever will. We've always had shuttles or buses or people parked on the side of the road and hoofed it into the festival area. We had a marvelous Saturday, this past Saturday, the grand opening of the park. There were cars everywhere. That park, those parking lots within the park filled up, emptied out, filled up, emptied out. They were all out around other businesses that had said, sure, you can park here. We have lots of people that tell us that. So that I think maybe the knee-jerk reaction was because we talked about the perimeter around the park and trying to keep it as close as possible. Some thought we were pinning down. I didn't think that because I've been talking to some of these folks. The contractor that built the park has got an office building a stone's throw from the gate to the park. He says, hey, I got 50 parking places lined off in my building down here. Park there anytime you want to. That's around the perimeter of the park. We have doctor's offices right down the street. Down the other side, we have other areas. We will be using shuttles. I know the orchestra at their last meeting, we're talking about increasing the number of shuttles that will be bringing people into the park. So, you know, never dawned on me that somebody would thought, and that's my fault, I'm sure, that somebody would have thought we were looking at the 100-foot buffer around. But we have other property that they didn't care about that 100-foot buffer. And we have been talking to some of those folks. It's undeveloped property, and some of it's developed. So that's where I was looking at with this, around the perimeter of the park. Maybe the word perimeter maybe wasn't the best word to use, but in the general vicinity of the park. The closer, the better. And we've had some very good offers, but I don't think we're at liberty to discuss those right now.
Well, again, I'm about solving problems, not creating problems. And one of the problems we have is not so much for the orchestra itself, but in general, where do we maximize our parking situation that we have existing now? Well, we added this new parking pad, the crush and run, and that seemed to work fine. It's just, right now, it's not even paved, it's just gravelled and it's dusty, and I think we need to go ahead and put that on the agenda next time to go ahead and pave that piece of property. Go ahead and blacktop it and make it permanent, because it did work and it did solve the parking issue. When I said perimeter, I meant exactly get an aerial view of the community park and have an engineer or an architect look at the area around it. We have Miss Hiller's property. You know, she said in the past that she won't sell it right now, but who knows? We have the property in front of there, Miss Hiller's property. Miss Allgood passed away. They might be interested in selling that property. There's a lot of actual land that's contiguous to the park, besides the 100-foot buffer that we might could purchase. But I'd rather spend $100,000 and purchase something like that and make a parking lot if we needed to have extended parking than to build this little pathway to the church and then have it closed off, you know, on us after we finish. It's just too risky. And I think that I'd be not in good conscience if I voted to spend that kind of money. So I'd rather look at, let's take an architect, I don't know if it's an engineer or a landscape architect, look at an aerial view of the properties around the park, the perimeter of the park, and let's see where we can get possibly another 100, 200 more parking spaces that's usable in the, it's just convenient to the park. But as far as the actual park itself, I think we've done a great job in solving the immediate parking issue. I mean, Saturday was a good example.
Good example.
People came, they filled up the parking lot, they left, they came back and filled it up again. But we just have to blacktop that piece of crush and run we got right now, and look at the perimeters and see if we can find some more available property that we can use. And I know we have a couple of offers that we can make happen. And we'll put that on the agenda for next meeting, like I said. So I would hope that we can get a study.
Well, the only thing, and I'm not sure, but I think Mr. Moore has said Ms. Hiller doesn't want to sell her property, and I don't know if that's changed or not or what, but...
I've received verification this past week that she does not wish to sell her property, but would enter into a long-term lease with us.
Okay. Oh. As far as we could clear the land and put some parking in there, or...
Probably so.
Okay. And I don't know for sure, but I know I did talk to James Mack about Miss Corley's property.
Miss Allgood.
It's all good.
Yeah, Allgood. I don't know why I keep saying Corley, but anyway, he's under the impression the family probably won't, but then again, you know, that's subject to change too, but I think somebody in the family, I can't remember who is standing there right now, maybe a daughter or something like that. And, you know, I think the parking that we just finished the other day, the 60 some spaces, and again, this is just my 2 cents worth, I think it's adequate for the day-to-day activity. It could turn out to not be adequate, but I think time will tell us that. And I think if we do the other stuff that they were talking about, the playground or whatever, we might be short again, I don't know. But I would almost say, and I don't say that we need an engineer, I would almost say Bob.
Yeah, he said engineering, that's what threw me.
Bob could probably, I won't say, pick out an aerial map and say, here is places available. I know one of the...
Need a realtor.
Yeah, tax map
would show you.
But I know, I think Mr. Mack too at the church, they're, I don't want to beat you to the punch, but I think they're going to try to talk to some people too about parking and maybe charging parking so they can do a fundraiser. But I don't know how it's going to go. But they're looking at...
Well, you know, we got residents that live up and down those roads.
Yeah, they want to...
It's not a thing you can do to stop them if they want to put a sign in the front yard, you know, $10, park here.
I would.
You know, it happens all the time around the fairgrounds, other things. We're going to have
but I think that's something
people standing in line to use that park next year for
a big map.
Easter sunrise services. I mean, we've already got people coming and going wanting to use it. Parking is going to be an issue.
If we look at a map that shows all the businesses in Irmo that are within, I would say 4 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles, whatever the radius would be, and say, here's all the parking lots, then and that might be, I don't want to say you do it, but somebody would have to go, knock on doors and talk to them and ask them.
Here he's looking for something you can walk from, right?
Yeah.
Something you can walk into.
Walk
or, you know, because so many events, the Okra Strut has had shuttles for years gone by, but there are going to be so many other events that would not be able to afford to have shuttles.
But if we have, say, one of those like concerts, we could also use that green field for parking, couldn't we, if it's not rainy and wet and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we drove some heavy equipment over that field Saturday. And it had rained the day before. In fact, it rained Friday while we were doing it. I didn't see any problem. Did you win?
No.
And that
you still have a year though for us for sure.
Yeah, some kind of pour down. And that Hiller.
But again, this is our park. It's our section of land that we bought. And if we want to control what goes around it, guess what? We need to own it.
Or lease it. Or lease term.
Right.
Now, with that lady, and I don't know, but I know you mentioned one time that she may not want to sell and she may not want to mess up her property, so to speak, or some wording like that. If we do one of those, and I'm not going to call it a natural parking area, but one of those like at Harvest and Forest, it looks like people just park anywhere they can, where they go in there and clear out trees and shrubs and make a road in and out, and then you just kind of, well, we leave as many trees as possible, we don't pave it, we don't do anything, we just clear areas to park. Would she agree to something like that?
I truly don't understand the affinity that she has. I do not think it is anything other than a fear of paying taxes and a belief that because of the park, her property is going to be seriously subject to appreciation for her family in the years. I think that every realtor I've talked to says that the park has probably raised property values in Old Friarsgate by 10% across the board. And the Miss Hiller either has, I know she has a tax issue, because I don't think she paid much for it, but she's had it for a long time. But I think she also recognized that upon her death, there's a stepped up basis and they could then sell it with zero tax consequences. But I talked to them about, you know, you can cover that either by way of a friendly condemnation, or you can cover it by simply jacking the price up enough to cover the cost of the taxes. But they don't want to hear that. But Mr. Hiller said that she'll consider a long-term lease. whether it's $1 a year or $100,000 a year, I don't know. If you want me to follow up on that, I will.
I think that'd be a,
Well, I wanted to look and see what was available first before we jump into it head first.
You know, you got
Okay?
Glenn, I think, Glenn, I think is willing to sell it. It's 2.5.
Well, that's fine. Let's just look and see what's available. That's what I'm saying. If it costs us a couple $1,000s to have an architect or engineer look at what's available, let's pay the money and look at what's available instead of we jump into building a $100,000 park walkway that can be shut off at any time. You know, that's all I'm saying. You know,
I think one of the things I would be looking at along that line is to have some professional to look at it and say,
right,
this would be something that would fit for what you want to use it for. Not me on a knee-jerk reaction go out and try to pin something down and then find out it's a wetlands. And I can't disturb it because there's some little worm that crawls over it, you know, twice every century. That I can't do anything with it, and I'm now committed to town's money. That would be irresponsible of me. So that would be my issue, is to have somebody say, well, yeah, I've looked at this map, it's on such a map, here's the geological survey, and whoops, you can't do anything there because there's mining issues or wetlands, or I just know what the problems in this beautiful new park that we have with that little stream.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't hardly move the twigs out of it because it might change the flow of water.
I will say this to you, and again, this is, I'm probably interceding into a discussion that's not my place, but I will say this as a matter of simply advice to you. If we are going to do an construct in that park next year, and I hope we do, there has got to be found an ironclad way to move people into and out of that park during the construction.
And I think we have done that by opening up the two entrances, making it one way possibly through there, as far as vehicular traffic goes.
There's going to have to be some kind of a very defined shuttle service. And the problem is you're not going to be able to use things like golf carts and so forth.
No.
Because they're going to have to come across Lake Murray Boulevard. But
No, we will be using professional, like through Parks and Recreation shuttles, Midlands Tech, city buses type thing.
I'd recommend.
yeah, I think they're working on it.
Yeah, they are.
I think Kirk even mentioned they were maybe going to be advertising and not put up signs, and maybe some on the interstate too, that directed people when you get off the exit, turn left or something like that, or whatever too. They do need to address it. But I would say go ahead and talk to that lady too, because I know how long it kind of takes that.
I will probably have to go to Florence to do that, but I will make the effort to do that.
And if you need me to ride up there with you, I will too. I think she needs, because that's probably, I think a good, especially if we can maybe not disturb the land too bad, and
I'll ride up there if you take the Jaguar.
get parking out of there without maybe cutting the trees down or whatever it is she doesn't want us to do. I don't know.
How much is the engineering study?
Well,
I mean, approval.
You don't mean engineering studies.
I want a professional to tell us, yes.
This would be good for parking.
Exactly.
This would be good for parking. This
Are you
would
talking about parking lots, or talking about vacant land, undeveloped land, or just anything,
Right,
both?
anything that's available.
unencumbered land.
Unencumbered land, right.
Around the park.
Yeah.
I'm going to use the words around rather than.
Yeah, okay, let's use
Maybe
that.
outside the park. That's what you-
Mayor, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
One of the costs that we were going to have, and one of the problems we were going to have in getting to the Union property was going on that upper end and going across that pond. If we had leased or bought Miss Hill's property, wouldn't it be much easier to build a path that would go without having to interplay with their detention pond? And wouldn't we be butting up then directly against Union's property? You could then build a trail that would be
Yeah, I mean, it might be a different route, shorter route. The only thing too, that, I mean, when you bring that up.
I know what you're saying. It doesn't touch.
Doesn't touch.
Oh, it doesn't? Oh, okay.
You got the map right there. I can show you. Yeah.
Well, before we vote on this, I think we need to amend it then to,
But we don't have a cost because, now that we're not dealing with inside the park and drainage issues, I mean, shouldn't we
well,
know
now you
very
had
much
mentioned a
more?
real estate person. Do we need a real estate person? Do we need a architect? Do we need, I don't know who does that kind of stuff.
Real estate person or a surveyor or an appraiser.
I would yield to Bob to
Yeah.
go out and start asking educated questions.
People that, know how to read a deed.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they can do
Yeah.
tax map searches and go, here's whoever does those big photographs and look at them and go, here's all the stuff
If you go
that's
to-
close enough.
An appraiser.
If you go to XYZ Real Estate and say, here's $1,000, will you tell me what's available around this park?
Yeah, but they might not
Yeah,
be.
but you need to
They
go
might,
to somebody with all the designations.
they might
A
not
lot of
give you
initials after that.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
they might leave you.
They would come closer, I would say, to coming back with a whole list of stuff around the park, hoping
they
they could
already
earn that
themselves.
$1,000 rather than pay them
Might be showing down the top
$1,000
that they got
up front.
listed. Here's the best one right here. Well, do we want to, you got what spending authority for
What's in
3,500?
5,000.
5,000? So if it's less than that, then you can
That
kind
ought
of
to
just
do
tell
it.
us, here's what you found, here's who you found.
Right?
Go Christmas shopping.
I'll ask him. And I'll start with an engineer and then I need to go to some sort of Okay. I got it.
By the next meeting?
So we got a first and a second on this item here. Do we want to just vote it down, or do we want to just defer it, or?
We just want it done. We just said we want to do it.
He still wants to study.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do, the council wants me to go.
Well, we need to amend this, because we don't want to vote to extend parking around the perimeter if that opens the door.
Parking outside
Would
the
you,
park.
Outside the park.
Barry, would you remove, ask that to be removed from the agenda in lieu of, by next meeting, we have something,
An idea.
an idea?
Yeah, if we have something, if we can do that by next meeting, I'd be glad to remove this from the agenda.
Can we do that?
Done?
And you'll do the best you can. If you need more time, you're gonna have to tell us you need more time.
I'll get something to start.
But get this ball
All I want
rolling.
to see is some names, some alternatives, what's available, what.
Here's 3 pieces, we're
Here's 3
looking
pieces.
at 5 more. We haven't got everything back yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I want to see by the next meeting.
And that's what I'm asking, just, if you'll ask to remove that, I seconded it, I think, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'll remove my second.
Yeah, actually remove that and
Okay. Well, that approval has been withdrawn then, so we can, and Bob, you'll do whatever and find us some stuff.
Does that work for you, Kim? Okay. That cleans it up.
The next is approval to transfer $16,800 from the ABC permit fund to the Overstruck fund. Is there approval for the transfer?
So moved.
second.
Any discussion?
That's the ABC permit fund that we've moved in the past to the extra.
This is the liquor money?
Yeah,
right?
liquor money.
Okay.
When people get a license to sell alcohol in a restaurant or who knows what or whatever, that's the portion that comes to us. And the only thing I'll say, and I know it won't go very far in and out years, but we could use that money at the town park now to pay for maybe a playground or a
I'm
picnic
going to write it down
shelter
so you
or
won't have to say it again, Hardy.
or all those other things.
Never just go use it in the town park.
So, anybody want to change your mind? Any more discussion?
No, but it was a good try.
A little bit too slow, late. All right, all in favor then of transferring the 16.8 from the ABC permit fund to the Overstruck fund, do so with show of hands. And I can go ahead and vote for it. 'Cause I know they need the money.
I'll write that down in big capital letters.
They need the money. 5-0. How about that? Y'all breaking me down. I think, you know, what's happening here is that what Mike Robinson talked about, they're wearing me down.
Well, it's only to be spent on something selling liquor. That's the only thing we do all year.
We don't have to be spent on anything. It can be spent on any tourism-related things. It could be a
What other
festival.
tourism? Okay,
It could be on the park.
I'm glad you voted yes, Harvey.
It could be spent on a picnic shelter.
Item D.
Yeah, item D, approval to construct a children's garden in the community park. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
And is there a second?
Second. Kathy.
Either one.
And whatever happened to that butterfly garden?
No.
That's what this is.
Is that the butterfly garden? too? Okay.
Well,
Okay,
what
this
is the
the thing
children's
with the little
garden?
bitty house? Yeah.
What is the children's garden?
Whit will be able to give a great description.
Okay.
Down here behind the children's garden / butterfly garden, it's going to have an entry arbor. It's all going to be built on a kid scale. Sidewalk will be slate and sod.
I'm just trying to think
It's
out.
going to have several berms with different annuals and perennials, few different plants and trees, small trees like magnolias, stuff like that. Then we'll have, at the very end, it's going to have a patio area that'll be made out of the slate and sod too, and a children's playhouse. So this will be a children's garden / butterfly.
And this is going up toward the restrooms?
Here, sure.
Yeah, I saw it on there and I thought,
When you go down the steps from the restroom,
Yeah.
there'll be an entry arbor there, and then it fades out adjacent to the pond.
okay.
Now that, what I call cul-de-sac on there, is that a trail that goes in and out? Or is that the whole thing is a trail? Or just circles a trail?
No,
It's not there yet.
I mean, yeah.
to the patio.
So there's a path in, it circles around and comes back out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Everything
And that's the-
inside of there is not,
This little house.
Yeah, that's the whole path.
oh, okay.
And all this is donated?
Explain where the money's coming from, Whit.
Hurricane Builders is going to build the playhouse.
This didn't cost us.
Arbor Day is going to pay for the installation of the sidewalk and arbor.
At $12,000.
And the soil that goes, that the plants will be planted on. Doug from 7 Oaks Plant Shop is providing all the annuals and perennials.
Very good.
There will be a small amount of work done by, there will be a small amount of work done by the Public Works Department of town.
It's a $15,000 to $20,000 project. Arbor Day and the other ones.
Well, I go out on a limb saying that I don't think that there's anything that should ever be done in that park, this park, or the Veterans Park, any of them, that our Public Works Department's not involved in. They put too much blood, sweat, and tears in all of these locations to have somebody come in there and do something that's going to cost us like the interstate over the years. So absolutely, Whit needs to have his people right there and his thumb on top of it. Anything in all three of those parks.
All we're doing is writing a check.
Right. But, you know, I'm not saying anything against the Arbor Day Committee, but Whit needs to be involved. He knows where the water lines are and, you know,
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Oh, look, Whit, you know what I'm gonna ask you? We gotta get some plants that you can eat going in there.
Not there.
Come on, man. I mean, you guys got all that, there's no okra growing anywhere in Irmo. At least have a couple of okra pods somewhere. I mean,
They come.
I'll even pay for the seed.
Well, some plants are edible, some flowers are edible.
Yeah.
You can plant all them, but,
I'd be glad to see
and you
some.
said that arbor is short?
Yeah, everything's going to be, everything is be built on tiles.
You gotta bend down.
It'll be like a 6 foot tall arbor, so.
Well, that knocks me out.
Oh,
And you can walk through it, Bob's going to have to duck.
That would be enough for 6.5 or so.
Okay.
I think that's nice.
I do too.
Very nice.
Any more questions? All in favor then to construct the children's garden in the community park, do so with show of hands. And next item is, and this is one of the things, I didn't really ask this to be on here as approval, I really just wanted it for discussion, but we can do this either way. But and y'all heard from the lady about this property. I think she called one day last week, and I've had calls over the last couple of years about it. But I think from what Sergeant Ringer told me, because he came by, he went out there, he looked at it, he wrote them up. Looking at a date here, January 9th, 2014, it sold to a company called Harbor High Yield Fund for $351. He has already wrote a letter May 1st to this new property owner. And I don't know if we need to give a week or two, or until our next meeting, or Jake, if we need to go ahead. He has wrote up numerous things on it with the other property owners and this and that and other. I think the previous Freddie Mac was going to tear it down. They had got bids, and then they sold it.
Well, if you'll make the motion, I'll second it.
Okay.
And then let me offer a suggestion.
Was there approval to start the condemnation process for 131 Witchwood Drive, and I'll make the motion?
I'll second it.
All right, and discussion, go ahead.
Well, I think that if we vote to approve this, that gives the town administrator and the town attorney the blessings to move forward with condemnation if that becomes necessary, but doesn't mean that we have to go that route if we can come to a mutual agreement in the best interest of everybody involved and time.
Yes.
But that we're not going to sit back and wait another 6 months and then say, well, we need to start the condemnation process.
What I would like to see done is this. I would like to see, I would like for Bob to email me the address of the property owner. I would like to write a nice but firm letter to the property owner, asking them to please contact me to make arrangements so we can talk. In the interim, I would like for the chief to have the code enforcement officer do whatever is necessary to begin the actual formalized process that would result in a citation. So while I'm saying things that are nice, they're getting from the police department the pre-citation and the notifications work both hand in hand. You know, y'all are probably going to throw things at me for what I'm going to ask you, but let us assume for a moment they recognize they got a piece of property that's basically worthless and would be willing to sell it to a 501c3 corporation that we know very well for a very small amount of money. Pocket parks in neighborhoods is something we've talked about. Assuming that I could start a discussion in that regard, would you guys be interested in me doing that?
We'd have my support.
Yeah.
Yeah, they paid $351, so
Give them $1,000?
if you give them $1,000, they probably sell it.
Robert, they paid $1,000 for it, and the town was going to knock it down. And we could get the park grant through Nathan and Chip to actually construct a playground area over there. We could conceivably wind up building it and take out the swimming pool. Nathan and Chip have both said the park grant is a piece of cake. Well, if you spent $100,000 over there to level it out, sod it, and put some swings and a merry-go-round and some grass and a few trees, you've got a perfect pocket park, and you've just created an area inside the subdivision that would be, you know,
beautiful.
And we might be able to build it for free, or even negotiate with the town about it. Arbor Day would have to be involved. We can put some of our money in it, but we ain't got much left if we spend this $12,000 we're about to spend. But we got a little. And we can find some more. You know, it might be a fun concept to pursue if anyone has any interest in that. And this is way beyond my position as city.
So that's what I'm saying. I would vote to give you the approval to start that process. At any point in time, all of that work can be dropped in a shredder. There's nothing to say that we have to follow through with it, but we don't have to wait until we get an
131.
absolute no, 6 weeks from now.
If Bob will send me the address of the owner, I'll write the letter and I'll start moving.
I haven't got it on this letter here, I just got a copy
It
of
would
the
certainly
letter.
help
I've got it. It's
the
plenty.
neighboring area.
Yeah,
Oh, very much.
Harbor High Yield.
And they deserve it.
Well,
Turtle light
I can send it to you.
there it is, Dallas,
That's
Texas.
terrible.
Dallas, well,
Plant those right outside.
I know, that could be a corporate office. I mean,
So many times we can't do anything
I mean, we can
to
send
help you. And this time we can. Yeah,
$6,000 burned off.
that'd be even better.
Which almost
So right now, we got the approval to do the condemnation, and do we want to go ahead and just say,
It says start the condemnation.
we vote to do it, y'all can move it your own speed type thing and find out what's going on, and then maybe give, because that, Sergeant Ringer did write a letter to that company, and he's hoping that, they may respond, I don't know. But he did in the letter say, you got 10 days to abate this issue, and yada, 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 yada.
Good.
All that, so they're aware they gotta, hope,
And they get one from you, that will,
and they may decide, sell it's better than spending all whatever they're gonna spend on
Well,
it.
you could buy it for nothing, I'm sure. But you gonna spend.
They did.
They did.
They did.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the approval to start the condemnation process, do so, show of hands. Next item is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who would like to address Irmo Town Council on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not on the agenda, may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record. Anyone who'd like to address Town Council. Seeing none.
well, before you blow the gavel, oh, I'm sorry. You go right ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Mayor, council members, Chief Buck, Mr. Moore, thank you. I'm Bridget Goff of 14 Market Hall Court. And I contacted the town about a week ago with some problems that I'm experiencing with Friarsgate Park. And all of you, I think, responded within 24 hours, and I really appreciate your responses so quickly. My concerns with Friarsgate Park is being a homeowner resident behind the park for 27 years. I've seen the park that's grow, but then so have the problems. One of the major problems we experience with the town, with the park, where it's located, people park at the park after the operating hours have ended and use their cars for drug and sexual activity. I've contacted the Richland County Parks and Recreation Director asking for a gate to block off the parking area from approximately 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. So far, I haven't received any kind of response from the park director. So I'm just here to ask the town council if we can consider some options to improve the security there at the park during those times. Thank you so much for your responses again.
James Brown, I think that's his name.
Mr. Brown, whether it's James or not.
Yeah. He did call, and I'm not sure, like a day or two after you sent us the email, and I called you, whatever, he did call me back, because I called over and left him a message. And I'm just trying to think, because I thought he was going to call you from what he said. He was going to call you and let you know. But I think from what I remember, and the gist of it was they were not going to put up a gate. I think their concern was, and I'm kind of remembering off the top of my head, was Sunday mornings, they don't open the building until maybe 11 or 12 or something. But he said a lot of people go over there to use the playground and the shelter and the other stuff back there to practice or whatever they do. And they felt like that would cause a problem with people getting in there on those days when they don't have somebody to come over there and open them like they would, I think, the 6 days he was talking about. He also mentioned that one of their concerns with that gate was the ambulance and fire truck trying to get in. So that was something that I don't think he said 100% we're not going to, but I think that was the way they were leaning, and they would have to meet and vote or something. Maybe that's why he hadn't called yet, but he was just kind of telling me that I think that's where he stood. I had also called to ask what they, you had mentioned in the email, something about land, they were going to buy some land, and he was kind of talking about what their preliminary plans for that, but they haven't came up with nothing yet. And part of the problem, I think, was even if they come up with something, there's no money, and they may not be able to do too much in it anyway. But they did want to construct more baseball fields because, and again, I can't remember the number, but they turn away a lot of children who want to play in, what is it, Irmo Little League. And they want more field for that purpose. And part of that would be parking. They don't know how much, but I think, and again, I might be, but I think he said they wanted to have like 2 or 3 fields. And then whatever else they could get in parking out of that, then that's what they would be doing. But he didn't feel like they would have the funds anyway. The only thing I can say is, you know, I did talk to Chief, and we do patrol. I don't know if we can, you know, be up to the Chief patrol more, but I think too, you said you contacted Lexington County Dispatch, because if you call that dispatch number, it's forwarded at night to 911, to that place, and they're supposed to be answering. If they're not answering, you know, we need to know, because we need to find out. And I think you said, and you, well, just...
Right, and I think Ms. Reinberg has been in touch with you every now and I can give you more information about technology, the phone system, something has to do with having your phone set up.
Which, unfortunately, 911 system fails occasionally. It's not the first time it's failed for us, and won't be the last one.
But it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, exactly. And I don't know what the
Yeah, really,
technology is, in a completely unrelated incident many years ago. 3 phone calls were made about a car wreck involving my daughter. They said they didn't receive a single call.
Well, I know that the chief
other person in the car
and Mr. Brown are both working on
These things
that.
happen, and I don't know why, so I'm going into the full technology aspect.
The problem you have is when you start talking to the administrator of that park and talking to the commission who are his boss, you wind up with 2 different personalities. He is, I'll be kind, bureaucratic and non-committal and status quo. The gentleman who is the representative from Richland County, I don't know his name, who's on that commission, is a go-getter and a very much a responsive person. I would suggest that we don't give up in just talking to the administrator, because the response we got from him is what I would expect. I'd highly recommend that we ask to go over to you'll find out what the next meeting of the commission is, and ask if there is public comment, and get 5 or 6 of your neighbors, and maybe take somebody from the town with you, and let's go and talk to the commission and not to the commission's employees.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It's a real good idea.
I'll go with you.
Chief, did we not have at one time a substation for Richland County inside the building where the basketball court?
The Sheriff's Department did. When we moved to doing our paperwork in our cars, we got away from needing
got away from that.
Handwritten reports. We're in and out of the parking lot, obviously not as often as you would like. You know, we get the handful of calls over there, but it's not a real, you know, it's not a crime central location. And I know Lexington County administration is working with Ms. Goff about the whole 911 issue. They've done some Freedom of Information Act requests over Richland County, where apparently the PSAP was answered for her phone call, where they tried to transfer to see where that kind of thing.
And may I say, whenever I've asked to contact Chief Buck and the town of Irmo Police Department, they have always responded quickly and politely, so it's not that I'm not getting with them, they're just, that particular time, there was just that, we don't quite know what happened, just respond. And that's really very unusual.
Well, and I was somewhere this morning talking to someone, not about Irmo, but they said they had called, not Irmo, but they had called 911 and argued with the people as to where they lived. They lived in Quail Valley somewhere, and they were telling them, well, that's Columbia, and we got to transfer you there. And she's like, no. Actually, they were on Archer's Court, but on the other end of it, Archer's Lane or whatever. And she said they argued. And the whole time, they were having a major problem. They finally were convinced that it was Lexington County, and they dispatched somebody. But so it happens over there some. I don't know why. But
Keep us informed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to address council?
Before we end, again, going back to Saturday, I think it was a total success. There's a lot of people that had never been to the park, didn't know it was there, will be back many times. We did have a lot of parking, people hunting parking places. Glenn Davis jumped in his little car and came over and said, hey, you can use my parking lot, which helped a lot. The contractor that built the park came up and said, hey, people can come use my parking lot right outside the main gate. So a lot of the businesses around jumped in and recognized the situation and helped. And I just wanted to publicly thank Glenn. I don't see Mike Eldsey here, but we certainly appreciate it. I think the citizens liked it. They wanted to know if we were going to do it again next weekend. And each Saturday.
Yeah, I heard somebody ask, is this an anniversary or something, or an anniversary thing?
It was nice to see that many people at one time.
Yes, it
really
was.
Very nice.
That's all I have.
Any more presentation?
We're going to do it again 4th of July.
Any need for an executive session? No. A motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.